Today, we decided to showcase the most popular electric cars that Ukrainians are voting for with their wallets. This is our friend Oleksiy. I'm Dennis, and you're watching the First Electric Ride channel.
Hello everyone. Today's review features the most popular electric crossovers. The first is the MG Marvel R, equipped with a 70 kilowatt-hour battery and all-wheel drive. The second is the Hyundai Ioniq5, featuring a 74 kilowatt-hour battery and all-wheel drive. Next, we have the Volkswagen ID.4, the people's car, which comes with an 82 kilowatt-hour battery and all-wheel drive. Lastly, completing the lineup of all-wheel drive cars is the Nissan Ariya, which has a 90 kilowatt-hour battery. Now let's move to the front-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive models. There's the Nissan Ariya with a 90 kilowatt-hour battery and front-wheel drive. Next is the Volkswagen ID.6, which features an 82 kilowatt-hour battery and rear-wheel drive. We also have the Volkswagen ID.4 with an 82 kilowatt-hour battery and rear-wheel drive. Additionally, there's the MG Marvel R, which includes a 70 kilowatt-hour battery and rear-wheel drive. Finally, we have the BYD Song Champion equipped with an 87 kilowatt-hour battery and front-wheel drive.
All cars are charged to 90% and ready for testing. We plan to conduct two main tests. The first is a range test, where each team will drive approximately 300 kilometers, and then we'll check the remaining battery level and range indicator. The second is a charging speed test, during which cars will be discharged to 20% and then charged to 80%. So we have two teams, one consisting of all-wheel drive cars and the other consisting of front or rear-wheel drive cars. Each team will drive in convoy and compete in several tests. The first test will evaluate city consumption. The second will measure highway consumption at 90 kilometers per hour, as EVs are most efficient at this speed. The third will calculate combined consumption. Finally, the fourth will assess highway consumption at 110 kilometers per hour. At the end, we'll summarize the results, check the remaining battery levels, and determine the electric car with the longest range. Friends, leave your predictions in the comments about which car you think will win. You'll see an example prediction on the screen now. It's very important. Your comments are crucial for us as they help boost our video views. Give this video your best like, reset the onboard computers for each car, set the climate control to 21 degrees Celsius in auto mode without using eco, and join us on this journey. Tell you, it's not easy. Right now, Oleksiy, our cameraman, and I are in the support car, a Citroën EC4. Capturing footage of 9 cars is quite a challenge. That's why we're counting on your likes. By the way, a little spoiler. We've got this car for 2 weeks, courtesy of the importer, so you can expect a special video soon in the diesel versus electric car format. But for now, let's catch up with our convoy. We've completed the first leg of our route. Now we're summarizing the city consumption results. We're at Winner Imports parking lot. By the way, we're joined by Anna, a representative from the company who is testing the all-wheel drive Marvel R with us. There's also a representative from the VIDI dealership testing the rear-wheel drive Marvel R with us. Let's record the consumption. Starting with the all-wheel drive cars. The Nissan Ariya with all-wheel drive showed a consumption of 12.7 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers. That's an excellent result, with no traffic jams, distance covered 21.6 kilometers. Moving on to the Marvel R. The Model R with all-wheel drive consumed 18.3 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers. Resetting the onboard computer, next up is my car. This is the Volkswagen ID.4 with a consumption of 14.4 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers. Yevhen, this is simply fantastic. For my car, this is an amazing result. Now, for the comparison with its main competitor, the Hyundai Ioniq5. These cars are often compared. Today, we're particularly interested in how they perform together. What's your consumption? 12th of June, friends, I officially declare the Hyundai Ioniq5 beat the ID.4 by almost 2 kilowatts. Remember, we're conducting this test under city conditions, but we have the highway test ahead. However, friends, keep in mind it's on 20-inch wheels, while mine are 21 inches. You've already seen how tire and wheel weight affect consumption. For the next test, I'll account for the impact of wheel size and swap the 21-inch wheels for 20-inch ones to ensure a perfect comparison between the Hyundai Ioniq5 and the Volkswagen ID.4 Prime. Now, over to Oleksiy.
We covered 21.7 kilometers at an average speed of 50 kilometers per hour. We used 4% of the battery. Consumption was 11.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Friends, let's take a look at the results achieved by other members of the single-motor electric vehicle team. Moving on to the Marvel R with single-motor drive showed 15.4 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers under the same conditions, 50-kilometer average speed and over 20 kilometers traveled. Let's continue. The Volkswagen ID.4 with rear-wheel drive demonstrated 11.6 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers. For this distance, we used only 2% of the battery charge. In my opinion, this is an excellent result. Now let's see what the ID.6, being larger, showed a consumption of 12 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers, using 4% of the battery. Let's move on. The single-motor Nissan Ariya consumed 13.1 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers. As we can see, this is quite a decent result. Now we're preparing for the next test, gradually increasing the speed to observe the electric vehicle's consumption on the highway.
How do you like the results of the city drive? I'm shocked that the ID.4 turned out to be the most efficient, even beating the BYD champion. So please, make your predictions about who will be the most efficient in the Highway 90 test as we take the lead in the convoy. Of course, our Citroën is not participating in this competition. If you enjoy this video, we'll conduct similar tests for other classes of electric vehicles. Let's keep going.
While driving, we noticed an interesting feature of the Nissan Ariya. Currently, we are cruising at 90 kilometers per hour with cruise control engaged. However, the Ariya driver reported that they were traveling at 100 kilometers per hour, even though we agreed to maintain the same speed, 90. This surprised us, so we decided to verify the data using navigation. The dashboard shows a speed of 90, while the navigation indicates 86 to 87. So the dashboard speed matches the actual speed, but it's curious why the Ariya displays a higher speed. Write in the comments if you've noticed something similar and what it might be related to.
As you can see, it started to rain. This is a valuable experience for all test participants. We are now on the Korstishiv bypass in the Ioniq5. It's a bit gloomy, but all the cars with their stylish LED lights look impressive. Support us with likes and also support our participants who agreed to take part in this experiment. So far, we've covered the single-motor vehicles. We're catching up with the single-motor Marvel Air and Oleksiy ahead in the BYD Song Champion. Reminder, they're traveling at 90 kilometers per hour. This is part of the efficient highway driving test, but as you can see, it's raining. We're now near Zhytomyr at the SOCR gas station. There's a large parking lot here where we can record the consumption data. As you can see, I'm wet again, but that means this episode will be top-notch. Write in the comments if you've seen this many electric cars in one test anywhere else. We covered 102 kilometers at a speed of 90 kilometers per hour. Consumption data. Marvel R all-wheel drive. 17.3 kilowatt hours Ioniq 5 all-wheel drive. 17.1 kilowatt hours. A decent result for an all-wheel drive dual motor car with high power. Now moving to the Nissan Ariya, single motor. The owner reports 15.6 kilowatt hours. That's a good result. With such efficiency, you can go far. Other results, Ariya, all-wheel drive, 16.5 kilowatt hours. Resetting the onboard computer and moving on. I hope the most efficient one will be the ID.4. It scored 16.1 kilowatt hours, a good result. Just slightly more than the single-motor Ariya by half a kilowatt. Marvel R, single motor. Yes, I see the charge level is at 64%, 102 kilometers traveled, 18.8 kilowatt hours. All data recorded. Adding it to the table and reset the onboard computer again. So, Alexei, what do you say?
Champion is not a champion?
Not a champion?
Not a champion.
How is that possible? Champion is not a champion. What happened? Friends, 17.8 kilowatt hours. I just moved from the single-motor ID.4, where it was January 16th. Alexei, now I can tease you on forums and in chats for a long, long time. But here, the battery is larger, the usable capacity is greater.
And the motor is more powerful. Let's start with that. The consumption is naturally higher.
And yet it still doesn't go anywhere.
But it's better.
Yeah, well, let's recall the ID.6. The ID.4 scored 16.1. How much did the ID.6 score? 15.5? How come? So how is it that the ID.6 consumed less than the ID.4? Friends, this is some kind of paradox. Tell me, please. Are you like Fred Flintstone pedaling with your feet?
Nothing like that.
All right, let's reset the onboard computer so we don't forget later. We still have my Prime left. The charge level is at 61%. 16.5 kilowatt hours. It seems almost identical to the Ariya. But here's the nuance. The ID.6 is more efficient than the ID.4. How is that possible?
If I had been driving the single-motor ID.4, maybe it would have consumed even less.
Resetting the onboard computer. Getting ready for the next drive.
Friends, we've just completed the test at 90 kilometers per hour. Now we'll move forward at a speed of 70 kilometers per hour. This will be a variable speed test on the Zhytomyr bypass. We'll adjust our speed based on the road conditions. After this, we'll make a small stop to take measurements and then head toward Kyiv at a speed of 110 kilometers per hour.
While everyone is gathering, I wanted to share something. I'm absolutely impressed with this car. At an inconsistent speed, the consumption reached 21 kilowatt hours, but we were late and catching up with the group. The car handles just perfectly.
Make all the demons quiet, yeah, we were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've already know, yeah, I think that we've already know. Sick of dealing with the old plan, they know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've already know. Sick of dealing with the old plan, they know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation.
We've completed another 15 kilometers on the Zhytomyr bypass. Some cars are already down to 50% charge. We're turning the convoy back. The consumption in the combined cycle has been recorded. We'll have a quick snack and then head to Kyiv at a speed of 100 to 105 kilometers per hour, depending on the remaining charge percentages. While we love creating action-packed content, dragging 9 cars on a tow rope isn't exactly fun if the charge drops too low. Comment below which car you think will arrive with the highest percentage of charge and the greatest range estimate. Let's go.
They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've already know. Sick of dealing with the old plan, they know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh, yeah, I think that we've already know.
We've driven a bit more. Right now, the parking lot is chaotic. Alexei is organizing the cars while we're recording the results. Yevgen, how far have we traveled since the last update?
57 kilometers.
57 kilometers in a mixed cycle, consumption 14.2 kilowatt hours. Charge of the ID.4 Prime AWD is at 49%. Moving on. The single motor Marvel showed a 53% charge remaining, which is good. Estimate 2002 consumption 14.7. Great result. We're recording it and resetting the counter. Our BYD song champion, which hasn't always been a champion recently. Alexei, open the window.
Not always a champion, but always a good car.
13.8, remaining battery, 55%, recording it for the single motor car. Who's up next? Consumption, 14.7 kilowatt hours. The single motor Ariya, what's the reading? 14.6 kilowatt hours in the last mixed cycle. And the Ioniq 5, after resetting, 13.9. That's an excellent result. For this car, it's outstanding. Remaining charge, 50%. We'll definitely make it to Kyiv. Now, the ID.6, which is often a finalist, shows minimal consumption. What's the reading? I see a charge level of 54%. Again, minimal consumption, 12.6. How do you manage that? With climate control on, everything fair and square as agreed. 12.6. What kind of car is this? What's your status? Oh, a great battery reserve, 56% with a consumption of only 13. In my opinion, the result is excellent. The all-wheel drive Ariya showed a consumption of 13.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, a good indicator. Battery reserve is 64%, meaning we'll make it to Kyiv. The remaining Marvel all-wheel drive has the lowest battery level, 46%, but its consumption is 14.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Everything is fine. Let's grab some hot dogs. We have about 140 kilometers to Kyiv left. Hopefully each car will manage this distance. We'll maintain a speed of up to 110 kilometers per hour. We left Zhytomyr, had a light snack, and are continuing to Kyiv at a speed of up to 110 kilometers per hour. The lowest charge is in the all-wheel drive Marvel, 46%. Our car has 49%, but due to lower consumption, it will suffice. Leave comments, like the video, and we're heading to Kyiv to conduct a charging test. It will be interesting because the ND company has provided a 240 kilowatt charging station for testing. We'll start with the Ioniq 5 to see how much power it draws and how many minutes it takes. So, join us. We're catching up with our convoy now. We're already in Kyiv and have covered approximately 300 kilometers. We'll summarize the results of the last test segment, and you'll see them on the screen. By the way, unfortunately, one of the cars overtook us and isn't parked nearby. It will stop, take screenshots, and we'll add them to the table. Let's go. The rear-wheel drive Marvel started with a 95% charge and now has 16% left. Marvel records show that we drove only 294 kilometers. The average consumption was 18.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. The real range on 95% charge is 350 kilometers. This is the rear-wheel drive model. Moving on, so what will our Ioniq show? This is the most interesting car. The Ioniq 5 showed a consumption of 18.2 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. It covered 300 kilometers on 71% charge, a good result. The all-wheel drive Marvel started at exactly 90% and now has 11% left. Consumption on the last segment was 18.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. In total, the car can travel 338 kilometers on 90% charge, adding the data to the table. Let's move on. ID.4 all-wheel drive, it covered a total of 297 kilometers from the start with a consumption of 16.4 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. On the last segment, consumption was 17.8 and the battery charge is 17%. On 90% charge, this driving mode provides a range of 370 kilometers. Adding this data to the table. And moving on. Consumption is 19.3 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. This is the all-wheel drive Ariya. You started with 90%. The current charge is 25%, so you used 65% for 300 kilometers. The remaining range is estimated at 115 kilometers. So 300 plus 115 equals 415 kilometers on 90% charge. The all-wheel drive Ariya can do it. The economical ID.6. Let's take a look. The last consumption was 17 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, and the remaining charge is 24%. So 66% was used for 300 kilometers. If we covered 300 kilometers and the remaining range is estimated at 115 kilometers, then on 90% charge, the Ariya can travel 415 kilometers. Over the entire trip, it reports 15.3, which is a great result. The rear-wheel drive version of the Ariya looks more interesting. For 300 kilometers, it used only 61% charge, and the remaining range allows for another 154 kilometers. So, on 90% charge, the rear-wheel drive version can travel 450 kilometers, which exceeds the all-wheel drive version by approximately 50 kilometers in similar weather conditions. Well, what about the Champion? We're recording the following parameters. The last segment had a consumption of 18.1 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. For 300 kilometers, 62% of the charge was used, and the remaining range is estimated at 158 kilometers. So friends, it turns out that both the Champion and the rear-wheel drive Ariya can travel 450 kilometers on 90% charge. But it's important to note that the Ariya's battery has a higher capacity. Someone flew ahead in the rear-wheel drive ID.4, but took screenshots. Let's see what it shows. The car stopped about 1,000 meters from us with 26% charge remaining and an estimated range of 122 kilometers. So, on 19-inch wheels, it covered almost 422 kilometers on the last trip, with an average consumption of 17.2 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Decent, right? Over the entire day, for 300 kilometers, consumption was 15.6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. While you're looking at the summary tables, we're heading to the charging stations to test the charging process for our electric cars. Don't switch away. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Next, we'll be testing the charging process for these cars. Let's go! We arrived at Akademika Koroleva Street, at the office of ND Group. They create impressive charging stations that can be found at VIW hubs within the IONITY network and in many other locations. Recently, they installed their first 240 kilowatt charging station here, and we have the opportunity to test it. And we have the Ioniq5 with us. Let's get started. The Ioniq5's battery is discharged and preheated. We're curious to see how much power it can take. Connecting the vehicle. The charging station activates. We see a 16% charge. Voltage rises to 634 volts, and current flow begins. While we wait, it's important to note, this station has already delivered 190 kilowatts to a Tesla earlier today, as Sergey mentioned. Things are improving slightly. After 4 minutes, the car continued to warm up, and within a few more minutes, the Ioniq5 started accepting 185 kilowatts. We're waiting to see if the power will go even higher. So far, this is the result. A minute ago, I started getting concerned, but 186 kilowatts is already decent. Let's see what happens next. After some time, we reached nearly 190 kilowatts at a charge level of 35%, but then the power decreased to 142 kilowatts. While our Ioniq is charging and the Marvel R is waiting its turn, we have the opportunity to talk with a representative from ND Group. Sergey, let me express my admiration for this station. It's the first station of this power level I've encountered, and I'm impressed by its capabilities. Please tell us, when can we expect similar stations to appear in other regions of Ukraine?
This station is our first of such high power, and we're already thrilled with it. We installed it near our office, not only for testing, but also to showcase to our clients that we are evolving. It's like an advertising campaign. Currently, most of the stations we produce are for the European market. Once operators understand that long-term benefits lie not in cheap Chinese stations, but in investing in equipment with full technical support, quality service, and local production, including in Ukraine, we'll see rapid development of this infrastructure not just on Koroleva Street, but across the country.
Friends, let's accelerate the process of installing powerful charging stations. Leave feedback for operators on platforms like PlugShare, urging ND Group to deploy more 160 kilowatt plus stations. To motivate operators towards such investments, we need to actively use these stations rather than just wait for them. Sergey, confirm for us. Is the 160 kilowatt station now a standard product for your company?
Yes, 160 kilowatts is our basic standard. However, for clients with lower energy needs, we can configure an 80 kilowatt station that can later be upgraded to 160 kilowatts. This allows us to offer flexible solutions tailored to specific needs. Currently, our focus is on developing 240 kilowatt stations, and in the future, we plan to reach 500 kilowatt capacities.
I see there are 2 GBT connectors here. That's great for owners of Chinese electric cars. There's also one CCS and one CHAdeMO. I understand the configuration can be adjusted to specific needs, but tell me, this 240 kilowatt station, how does it distribute power among the ports? If there are 4 ports, how can it charge different electric vehicles?
It can charge multiple vehicles simultaneously.
So each port can receive its share of the total power. That's impressive. It can deliver 125 kilowatts at 70% charge. But if we consider average cars that draw 100 kilowatts each, it can serve them all, correct? Let's test this now by connecting a couple more cars.
If one car is charging, the power is distributed just like on a 160 kilowatt station. When a second car connects, the station automatically splits the power evenly between them.
With a 240 kilowatt capacity, dividing power seems fair, and any concerns about sharing are minimal since it's sufficient for most scenarios.
Exactly. Even splitting to 120 kilowatts is more than adequate. Today, this surpasses 80% of the stations available in the market.
Thank you for sharing insights about the future of charging stations. Friends, don't hesitate. Charge your cars at stations made by ND Group. Thank you. And now we'll continue charging our vehicles. Ioniq impresses. The ND Group station is a rocket. At 88% charge, we're still pulling 67 kilowatts. In just 26 minutes, we reached 90%. That's almost 60 kilowatt hours in such a short time. Amazing. I wish all cars could charge as fast as the Hyundai Ioniq. We've got 90%, almost 57 kilowatt hours delivered. Really impressive. Now we're setting up 2 cars for charging. We know that the Marvel doesn't take more than 100 kilowatts, and neither does the ID.4. Now let's test simultaneous charging. The Marvel will be connected to CCS2 combo, and my ID.4 to the Chinese GBT standard. Let's check it out. For now, it's at 81 kilowatts. Let's connect the GBT, almost 83 kilowatts. Well, that's how it is, folks. Still, a very decent output. We connected the ID.4. Charge level, 14%. Let's see how much the ID can handle. Right now, it's pulling about 85 kilowatts and gradually ramping up. The ID has reached its maximum, 250 amperes. Battery voltage, 351 volts, resulting in 88 kilowatts. Soon you'll see this charging curve. It'll climb steadily up to nearly 100 kilowatts. Stay tuned for the graph while we charge both cars. Meanwhile, Oleksiy is charging other cars at the ViWatt hub, including his Champion, which is expected to deliver 140 kilowatts.
We've arrived to charge our EVs at the VWatt hub, where we started our journey this morning. Here we have the ID.6 ID.4, Song Champion, and further down, our Ariya. Let's check how the charging process is going. Song Champion's dashboard shows 139.2 kilowatts. In the app, it's even higher, 142.6 kilowatts, 248 amperes, and 575 volts. Currently, we're at 37% charge, up from 25%. In just 7 minutes, we've added 13 kilowatt hours. Let's see how our Ariya is doing. Unfortunately, it's sharing power with the Zeekr R. We've connected it using an Altus Master adapter, and the station shows 51%. That's 74 kilowatts, almost 200 amperes, and 370 volts. A solid result. Song Champion is now at 47% charge. The dashboard shows 38.8 kilowatts, while the app reports 142.4 kilowatts, 248 amperes, and 574 volts. We continue to monitor. At 55%, the power slightly dropped. The dashboard now reads 123.8 kilowatts, while the app shows 128.6 kilowatts at 55%. For 30% of the time, the car was drawing the maximum power of 142 kilowatts. At 60%, the cooling system kicked in, reducing the power to 77.8 kilowatts as shown in the app. At 85%, the power dropped to 43.8 kilowatts on the dashboard and 48.2 kilowatts in the app. Song Champion continues to amaze. At 95%, the power is still 50 kilowatts, with the dashboard showing 47.6 kilowatts. A very impressive result. At 98%, the dashboard shows 48.3 kilowatts, while the app displays 51.2 kilowatts. How many other cars can manage this? Let me remind you, this is a blade battery by BYD, a lithium iron phosphate battery. What are you doing, BYD? At 99%, the power is still 44.6 kilowatts. Incredible!
And that's how our experiment ends for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. We always strive to showcase the most interesting aspects: popular electric cars, fast charging, charging graphs, expenses, and range. This was Dennis with First Electric Ride. See you soon. Bye-bye.